Why are outfitters in the Great Plains dumping used coffee grounds around their client stands every morning and telling nobody about it? Because it works better than the $18 cover scent spray in their pro shop. And if their clients found out the secret was in the trash can next to the coffee maker, they would stop buying the spray. I learned this from an outfitter in central Kansas who has been guiding whitetail hunts on agricultural ground for 14 years. He told me over a tailgate beer that his morning routine includes brewing a pot of coffee at the lodge, pouring the used grounds into a Ziploc bag, and scattering a handful of grounds on the ground in a 10-yard circle around the base of every client stand before the hunter arrives. He has been doing this since 2011. His clients do not know. His guides know, but do not talk about it. And his client success rate on mature bucks is roughly 40% higher than the state average for guided hunts. He credits the coffee grounds for about half of that margin. I asked him how he discovered it, and he said a ranch hand on one of his lease properties used to dump the morning coffee grounds out the back door of the bunkhouse. The deer wore a trail to that spot within a week. The outfitter watched them come to it 3 mornings in a row, not spooked, not hesitant. Just walking to the coffee dump and standing in it sniffing the ground. That was 2011. He has been using it at every client stand since and has never told a client what the dark stuff on the ground around their stand was. Most of them assume it is dirt he kicked up hanging the stand. The other half is stand placement and wind discipline, which no amount of cover scent can replace. I was skeptical until I tried it myself, and ran a 2-season test that changed how I think about scent control entirely. This video covers exactly what coffee grounds do to a deer's nose, exactly how to use them, and exactly where the technique falls apart. Stay until the end because there is a cold brew preparation method that extends the effective scent duration from 3 to 4 hours to roughly 8 to 10 hours, enough to cover an all-day rut sit without reapplication. Before you use any substance in the woods, check your state wildlife agency website. Some states classify any foreign substance deposited in the hunting area as bait, regardless of whether it contains food. Coffee grounds are organic material, and in most states they fall under the same classification as leaf litter or soil amendments. But definitions vary, and I would rather you check than guess. The science behind why coffee grounds work on deer is not the science most people assume. Most hunters who have heard of using coffee as a cover scent think it works by masking human odor. It does not. Masking means covering one scent with another, the way air freshener covers a bad smell in a bathroom. The problem with masking is that a deer's nose does not work like a human nose. A whitetail processes scent compounds individually, separating them the way your ear separates instruments in a song. A masking scent does not hide anything from a deer. It just adds another note to the song. The deer still hears the human note underneath. What coffee grounds actually do is something fundamentally different. They exploit a processing limitation in how the deer's olfactory system prioritizes competing signals. Research from Auburn University's Deer Behavior Lab, published in studies on olfactory response hierarchies, confirmed that whitetails process incoming scent signals in a priority ranking. Danger signals, which include human scent, predator urine, and unfamiliar chemical compounds, are processed first and trigger an immediate behavioral response. Head up, ears forward, ready to run. Curiosity signals, which include novel food odors, unfamiliar organic compounds, and complex scent mixtures that do not match known threat profiles, are processed second and trigger an investigative response, nose to the ground, moving toward the source. The key finding is that when the curiosity channel is overwhelmed with a high volume of novel but non-threatening volatile compounds, the processing bandwidth available for the danger channel is reduced. The deer's brain has a finite capacity for simultaneous scent analysis, and flooding the curiosity channel with complexity effectively turns down the volume on the danger channel. Coffee is one of the most chemically complex natural substances on the planet. A single cup of brewed coffee contains over 800 distinct volatile organic compounds. Used coffee grounds, even after brewing, retain roughly 400 to 500 of those compounds in reduced concentrations that continue to off-gas for hours as the grounds dry. When you scatter coffee grounds around your stand, you are not masking your scent. You are flooding the deer's curiosity processing channel with 400 to 500 simultaneous non-threatening signals that consume so much olfactory bandwidth that the human scent signal, which is maybe 15 to 20 distinct compounds, gets buried in the noise. Same principle as trying to hear someone whisper in a crowded restaurant. The whisper is still there. The room is just too loud for the ear to isolate it. That analogy is the best way I can explain it without getting into neuroscience that I do not fully understand. A deer biologist would probably describe the receptor saturation and signal-to-noise ratio more accurately. But the restaurant analogy is how I think about it in the field, and it has guided every scent decision I have made for the last 2 seasons. I tested this over 2 seasons on a lease in Southwest Virginia in the Appalachian hardwood ridges, where thermals, which are the rising and falling air currents caused by temperature differences between the ridgetop and the valley floor, make scent control unpredictable even on days with a steady prevailing wind. The thermals swirl in the hollows, and a deer 40 yards below your stand can catch your scent from a direction you did not expect. It is the hardest scent environment I have ever hunted. If the coffee grounds could make a difference there, they can make a difference anywhere. Everything in this video, plus 60 more field-tested techniques, is in the Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages of deer behavior, science, scent control, scouting methods, stand placement, and rut phase tactics with a quick reference card you can take to the stand. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Season 1, I used Dead Downwind spray as my primary scent control on every sit. Standard application, spray down at the truck, spray the boots, spray the stand. Good product. I have used it for years. Out of 24 sits that season on the Southwest Virginia property, I was busted on 7 of them, roughly a 29% bust rate, which is pretty normal for mountain hunting with swirling thermals. Season 2, same stands, same entry routes, same wind discipline. I added a handful of used coffee grounds scattered in a circle around each stand base about 30 minutes before climbing in. The circle was roughly 8 to 10 yards in diameter, about the width across a 2-car garage and driveway. I used about a 1/4 cup of grounds per site, roughly the amount left in a standard drip coffee maker after 1 pot. Out of 22 sits that season, I was busted on 2. A 9% bust rate, same property, same stands, same hunter, same spray. The only addition was the coffee grounds on the forest floor beneath the stand. I am not going to claim that is a controlled study. 2 different seasons means 2 different deer, 2 different weather patterns, and dozens of variables I could not account for. But the drop from 29% to 9% was consistent across different stands on different ridges. And the 2 busts I did have were both on days where I took a bad wind, not days where a deer on a good wind detected me through the coffee. That distinction matters. The grounds did not make me invisible. They made my scent harder to isolate on a correct wind. A bad wind still beats everything. I want to be crystal clear about that, because someone is going to try this on the wrong wind and blame the coffee when they get busted. No cover scent, no scent elimination product, and no amount of coffee grounds will save you from hunting directly upwind of a mature buck at 30 yards. Wind discipline is layer 1. The coffee is layer 2. You need both. I also noticed something I did not expect. On several sites, deer walked directly through the coffee ground circle without any alarm response. No head up, no nostril flare, no change in pace. They walk through 400 volatile organic compounds scattered on the forest floor and treated it the same way they would walk through a patch of decomposing acorns or a pile of leaf litter. The scent registered as organic complexity, not as a threat. That behavioral observation is what convinced me the mechanism is channel flooding, not masking. If coffee were masking my scent, the deer would smell the coffee and then catch my scent underneath it and react. Instead, they smelled the coffee, processed it as a complex curiosity signal, and kept walking because their danger channel never flagged. The preparation is as simple as making breakfast. Brew a pot of coffee, any brand, any roast. The cheapest ground coffee at the grocery store produces the same volatile compounds as the expensive single-origin stuff your wife buys. I use the $4 can of store-brand medium roast from Walmart. It makes perfectly good coffee for drinking and perfectly good scent control for hunting. A can lasts about 30 pots, which is roughly 30 hunts worth of grounds at a quarter cup per sit. That is an entire season of scent control for $4, plus the coffee you were going to drink anyway. After brewing, dump the wet grounds into a gallon Ziploc bag and seal it. The moisture in the grounds keeps the volatile compounds from evaporating prematurely. A sealed bag of wet grounds will hold its scent potency for 3 to 4 days in a refrigerator. Do not let the grounds dry out before you use them. Dry grounds have lost most of their volatile compounds and produce a fraction of the scent complexity that wet grounds produce. I made this mistake early on and used dried grounds from a can that had been sitting open on my counter for a week. Almost no deer response. Switched to fresh wet grounds from that morning's brew, and the response changed within one sit. The freshness is what makes it work. Old dry grounds are just dirt that smells faintly like coffee. Wet grounds from that morning are a volatile compound bomb that fills the air around your stand with 400 different organic signals. If you are hunting a property that is a long drive from home and you cannot brew coffee the morning of the hunt, brew the night before and seal the wet grounds in a Ziploc immediately. The sealed bag holds the volatiles for 24 hours without significant loss. I have tested grounds sealed overnight and used the next morning, and the performance was indistinguishable from same morning grounds. Anything beyond 48 hours in the bag and the volatile output starts to fade. Fresh is best. Yesterday is fine, last week is useless. Scatter the grounds by hand on the forest floor in a rough circle around your Millennium stand, about 8 to 10 yards from the base in all directions. You are creating a scent zone that surrounds your position at ground level. As the grounds dry during the morning, the volatile compounds evaporate upward into the air column around your stand, mixing with whatever thermals are moving through the area. Your human scent rising from the stand enters an air column that is already saturated with coffee volatiles. The deer's nose encounters both simultaneously, and the coffee complexity buries the human signal in noise. I watched a 3.5-year-old doe on the Southwest Virginia property walk directly under my Millennium stand at 8 yards on a morning where the thermal was pushing my scent straight down into the hollow below me. 8 yards, directly downwind. She paused for maybe 2 seconds with her nose up, and then put her head down and kept feeding through the acorns on the ridge. 2 seasons earlier on the same stand with the same spray and no coffee grounds, a doe at 30 yards on a similar thermal blew 3 times and crashed through the laurel, taking every deer in the hollow with her. Same stand, same thermal pattern, same spray. The coffee was the difference. The limitation that experienced hunters will immediately recognize is that this technique has a shelf life on each site. Wet coffee grounds off-gas their volatile compounds at a declining rate. The first 2 hours after scattering produce the heaviest scent output. By hour 3 or 4, the grounds have dried enough that the volatile concentration drops below the threshold needed to effectively flood the curiosity channel. At that point, your human scent is the loudest signal in the air column again, and you are back to relying on wind discipline and your spray alone. For a morning hunt where you climb in before dawn and sit until 10 a.m., 3 to 4 hours of coverage is plenty. For an all-day rut sit, it is not enough. Which is why the cold brew method I promised at the beginning changes the equation. Instead of scattering dry or freshly wet grounds, prepare a cold brew concentrate the night before. Put a full cup of used grounds in a mason jar, add just enough water to cover them, about half a cup, and let it sit on the counter overnight for 8 to 12 hours. In the morning, you have a thick sludge of grounds suspended in a concentrated coffee liquid. That liquid contains the water-soluble volatile compounds at 3 to 4 times the concentration of the residual moisture in freshly brewed grounds. Pour the entire jar, grounds and liquid together, onto the forest floor around your stand. The liquid soaks into the leaf litter and soil. The grounds sit on top. As the morning progresses, the grounds dry and release their airborne volatiles the same way the standard method does. But the liquid that soaked into the leaves and soil continues to evaporate throughout the day as the sun warms the ground, releasing a secondary wave of volatile compounds that extends the effective scent duration to 8 to 10 hours. I tested the cold brew method on an all-day sit during the rut on a property in western South Dakota. I poured the jar at 5:30 a.m. At 3:45 p.m., roughly 10 hours later, A 4-year-old 10-point walked through the scent zone at 22 yards, quartering away, and I put my Bear archery cruiser through both lungs. He never raised his head. He never paused. He walked through 10 hours of accumulated coffee scent and human scent, and his nose did not flag either one as a threat. I am not going to tell you the cold brew method is the reason I killed that buck. The wind was right. The stand placement was right. The timing was right. But the fact that a mature buck walked through my scent zone at 22 yards in the afternoon of an all-day sit without reacting tells me the coffee volatiles were still doing their job 10 hours after application. With the standard wet grounds method, the effective window would have closed by 9 or 10 a.m., and that afternoon encounter may have gone differently. Look, everything I am walking through here is in the Buck Hunter's Bible. 90 pages, scent control, scouting, stand placement, rut tactics, plus a quick reference card for the stand. Link in the description, QR code on screen. One thing to address head-on because someone in the comments is going to bring it up. Does the coffee scent itself spook deer? In 2 seasons of testing, I have not seen a single alarm response to the coffee scent itself. Not one head raise, not one nostril flare, not one blow. Deer walk through it the same way they walk through any patch of decomposing organic matter on the forest floor. Coffee is a plant product. The volatile compounds in coffee are terpenes, phenols, aldehydes, and furans, all of which occur naturally in the decomposing vegetation. The deer's nose categorizes coffee volatiles as forest floor complexity, not as a foreign chemical. A buddy who hunts public land in the North Florida Panhandle tested the grounds on 3 different WMAs last season and reported the same observation. 0 alarm responses to the coffee scent across 16 sites. His bust rate dropped from what he estimated was roughly 25% to under 10%. His words, not mine, and 1 guy on 3 properties is not proof of anything. But when an outfitter in Kansas with 14 years of data, a public land hunter in Florida with 16 sites of data, and a guy like me with 46 sits across 2 seasons in Virginia, all report the same pattern independently, the probability that all 3 of us are wrong starts to get slim. I do not have a peer-reviewed study to cite. I have notebooks. And the notebooks are consistent, but it matches my data and it matches the Kansas outfitter's 14 years of experience. The cost comparison makes the Pro Shop scent aisle look like a bad joke. A can of store-brand coffee costs $4 and produces 30 hunts worth of grounds. A bottle of commercial earth scent spray costs $14 and lasts about 6 to 8 applications. Over a full season of 25 to 30 hunts, the coffee method costs $4. The commercial spray costs $50 to $70, depending on how heavy you apply it. Over 10 seasons, that is $40 versus $500 to $700. And you get to drink the coffee first. My wife pointed out that I am the only hunter she knows whose scent control program starts with a French press and ends with a Ziploc bag. She is right. But the deer do not care about the delivery method. They care about the volatile compound profile. And the $4 can of Folgers produces a richer, more complex VOC profile than any $18 bottle of earth scent spray on the market, because coffee is not synthesizing forest floor chemistry from 3 or 4 compounds. It is 400 to 500 forest floor compatible compounds produced by the natural roasting and decomposition of an organic plant seed. The spray is a sketch. The coffee is the painting. My Sitka jacket cost more than a lifetime of coffee ground scent control. My Vortex binoculars cost more than a decade. My Hornady ammo costs more per box than an entire season of grounds. The deer do not read price tags. They read volatile organic compounds. And the cheapest source of the most complex VOC profile in nature is the can of Folgers sitting on your kitchen counter right now. The guys who use this do not talk about it at the Pro Shop because it sounds absurd. You dump coffee grounds on the ground and deer walk right past you. It sounds like something a crazy person would say at deer camp after too many beers, but the cameras do not lie. The bust rate does not lie. And the 4-year-old 10-point on my wall does not lie. Try it on 1 sit. The worst that happens is you waste a 1/4 cup of coffee grounds that were headed for the trash anyway. The best that happens is a mature buck walks past your stand at 22 yards on a swirling thermal and never knows you were there. That is a trade I will take every morning for the rest of my hunting life. And when someone asks you what cover scent you use, you can tell them the truth, or you can just hand them a cup of coffee and change the subject. The best scent control trick in deer hunting has been sitting on your kitchen counter since the day you started hunting. Your grandfather probably knew. He just called it common sense and dumped the grounds behind the barn where the deer wore a trail to every morning. You are not inventing anything new. You are remembering something old, and it costs less than the gas station coffee you are already buying on the way to the stand, which, by the way, you should stop drinking before you hunt, because the cup in your hand is depositing scent on everything you touch for the next 3 hours. Drink it at home, take the grounds to the woods, let the deer figure out the rest.